At one time, games were more difficult because there was no online. So it was the game's job to keep you busy for a long period of time through challenges, puzzles, and it didn't involve update this, update that. We'll finish it as you go, and there was no hand holding, generally speaking. So what I would like to have a conversation about, and you can get in the comments and tell me what you feel about this. After most of you have probably just exited, I've passed how much attention span length you have. But the last game that I played that I couldn't finish was one of the first games that I ever played on a console, which was Crash Bandicoot, the first one. And I quickly got to the point where I was at when I was a kid playing it, which was a few levels past that Dark Temple level. But it gets to like a two-dimensional level, and that's where I wasn't able to proceed. And that's a challenging game. It was meant to keep you busy. And that was not a very in-depth game. It was fairly just a simple platforming game. But it was something that took a lot of dedication. It didn't need online elements. And it kept you busy. Another one would be Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time versus Assassin's Creed, which is there's no comparison. Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time required a huge amount of skill because you were in control of the character's movements when you were jumping. It wasn't hold on to one button and you traverse the whole map like Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed has been a bad series since the beginning. The first one had potential because it had a really nice setting. Setting means a lot in games, and especially to me. I put a lot into that. That's why I said Far Cry 2 is my favorite. And the settings of various games can really play a big role in how memorable the game is or isn't. So the first Assassin's Creed had that Prince of Persia vibe to it. The second one had that Italian NCO vibe, which is funny. I saw a character on YouTube. His name was like a profile. His name was NCO Auditore, however he said it, say it. And he had thousands of subscribers with no videos, one of those spam accounts. But and then Assassin's Creed 3 I didn't play. Assassin's Creed Floor, Black Flag, kind of a okay setting, kind of like Far Cry 3, but no skill involved with that game. Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, which was one from the back. The combat was better than even Assassin's Creed, even if it wasn't that in-depth, because I remember you could vault over the enemies and then you would pick up their energy with the dagger. So it had a flow to it. Assassin's Creed is terrible. And all the reskins, I can't believe they're still going. That's just one example. And I grew up playing the early Call of Duty games before those were focused on online, like World at War and Call of Duty Big Red 1. All those authentic war experiences, I played a lot of those. And then at one point, Call of Duty, can't remember when Call of Duty decided it was going to be the biggest online game in the world. Was it Black Ops Modern Warfare, maybe. One of Modern Warfare, I think, had the German Shepherds in the campaign and had the sniper with the ghillie suit. Whichever one that one was, that's like the last of the good campaigns in Call of Duty. And you couldn't pay me to play Call of Duty Ghosts or whatever they're pushing now. It's just pew 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 or whatever. See, the thing about these skateboarding games is that even if the game's kind of not super like Skater XL, it has some rough edges and things like this. The difficulty is really you make your own difficulty with skateboarding games because you need that creative skateboarder's mindset. So that's kind of why I haven't gotten bored. Because if you look at another example, GTA 5 story mode and the difficulty versus GTA Vice City, anyone who's ever flown those little helicopters in GTA Vice City or just completed the game knows that that's no small achievement, beating GTA Vice City. But GTA 5 split its focus between the story mode and the online, which is still, the online is still raving as far as I know. Maybe not raving, but it's still very active and people are still fooling around with it, posting in Facebook groups about it. No one's playing that I know of, just driving around the city like I was doing before I started the skating. Just on the dirt bike, that's what I would do, and I would wreak havoc with the police. And I would drive around the city doing crazy jumps and backflips and on the ATVs, but mainly the dirt bikes. And that was that single player just idea. Go around this huge world and wreak havoc with the police once you have unlimited ammunition and all that. I'm talking about a game, by the way, in case you didn't know. But now it's about how can I make money online with GTA 5, and I just didn't get into it. I know everyone else. I'm a very different type of gamer than your typical video game player. It's not to say I'll never get online, but you can see the way online has made gaming. The difficulty of games, they don't need to concern themselves with crafting a handcrafted, thought out story that is the entirety of the game, because they've got this other little element, and then they can update it later. Update. New Red Dead Redemption update. That's one I want to play, is Red Dead Redemption 4, and I haven't. I bet that probably has a solid, good story. I might get that with one of these days. If I wasn't so in depth with the skating videos, I'd probably be already. Because GTA 5, when you would do damage with the weapons, say you were shooting or whatever, the weapons didn't do the same kind of damage. Like in GTA 5, Vice City, you were shooting people's heads clean off, or slicing their heads clean off with the katana. And it was brutal. And that's why I remember when that game first came out, and I was very young, and it was the most graphic game, and it was the most off-limits kind of game. And I remember there was a pack with Vice City and GTA 3, and that was like, I remember once I had got it for Christmas, and I think my grandmother had got it, who didn't know anything about games. I just had alluded that I wanted this. But when it became known that this was one of the most like games that gave you the freedom to go around and just massacre everybody, let's just say I didn't keep it very long. Isn't that ironic? Because now I can play whatever I want, and I'm just playing a skateboarding game. Oh, it's funny the way the world works, the way timing works. But as a kid, that was something, because you could run around the malls with a chainsaw. I mean, you can't do anything like that in GTA 5. And you're disconnected from the damage that you're doing because when you're shooting, there's no wounds on the enemies like that. Um, and I think Red Dead Redemption 2 fixed that, and it was better in Vice City, minus the superficial graphics. I don't know if they'll ever do a Vice City or San Andreas remake, but you can see games were harder, they were more in depth. Like that other game I posted a video of the soundtrack called Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy. Someone posted a review of that saying this might be a 15-hour game. Oh no. I was stumped on that game for months as a kid. And there was one challenge in particular with a star and these torches. I almost want to look that up one of these days to try to see if that's online, because I remember way back as a kid when the internet was like dial-up or something. It was in its infancy and I was playing that game. It might have came out in 2003. And I was on AskJeeves.com, if anyone remembers that. Ask Jeeves. And I just searched for like hours. Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy, triangle star, torches, and eventually I got the pattern. And I did it. That game was so involved. It was like open world, but it was not a sandbox game. You would go and as you progress, you would get a new ability that would allow you to go back to a previous area and access a new section with your new abilities, and it was all beautifully designed, and it was all with the mind. You had to take some initiative with these games. They were aimed at a smarter audience. It doesn't take a lot of intelligence to play Call of Duty multiplayer. And it doesn't take a lot of intelligence to make more Call of Duty games that are like that. But those original story modes are very like ingrained in your mind if you played them like I did. The original ones. The gunplay was good. The cutscenes even, and if you, not every game benefits from having a lot of cutscenes, but it was a war game. It was meant to be a little bit raw, but also a little bit cinematic. So it was good. It was good. But it's just a different time that we're in right now. Very different. It's a very different time in multiple levels. I'm not sure how many other examples spring to mind off the top of my head. That was a pretty good explanation. I'd like for you to... we were talking in the comment section too. This new word, bonk the like button. I've come up with so many great phrases on this channel. I've got 3 of them for t-shirts. This is a 4th one, bonk the like button. Because of like a nose bonk. So that'll be the new one, bonk the like button, and share with your friends and tell them that I'm making skateboarding realistic skateboarding videos, because there's something there. The early Tony Hawk games, were they hard? Let's see. Tony Hawk's Underground was not a short game. You went to a lot of different places. But it wasn't hard in the sense that you were doing realistic skateboarding tricks. You see, skateboarding games are kind of their own thing. Because in a sense, you could say Skater XL has no challenges whatsoever. It's got no story. So therefore, it's easy. Well, it's easy to do generic Skater XL, but to really... If you're finding satisfaction with Skater XL, chances are you want to be a skateboarder, or you have experience as a real life skateboarder. So skateboarding games, even I used to play, the first skateboarding game I ever played in life was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater on the Game Boy Color And I never played Pro Skater 2, 3, and very little of 4. My Tony Hawk history goes Pro Skater on the Game Boy, Underground on the PS2, Underground 2 on the PS2. Then I don't know which came first, either Proving Ground, Project A, but before that was American Wasteland. And that's where it was kind of, that had a very cool vibe to it. But that after that, the other two kind of were a little weird. The tone was a little weird in the other two. And then EA Skate came out, like I was saying with the previous video. Skate 2, and that was when we were heading towards realistic skateboarding simulation. What are some other games? Skyrim. I don't know if that Skyrim's a difficult game because it's got the regenerating health, things like that. I did play Oblivion. Oblivion is probably harder. Oblivion probably had it had the more RPG. That's another thing. Everything's gotten more streamlined. Everything is just kind of simplified to where you don't really have to use your brain as much. And there was something else I was thinking of. What other games did I play as a kid that were hard? Oh, Dark Souls. That's what it was, Dark Souls. Sorry for that pause. The Dark Souls series is kind of its own thing. And while Dark Souls 1 is kind of the perfect balance, Dark Souls 2, I kind of disregard that in terms of difficulty because the hitboxes and everything are just, it doesn't feel well crafted. It feels like this is difficult because we want it to be. That's not like Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy difficulty. Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy difficulty was, this is a masterful creation. This isn't meant to just punish you like you're some kind of person who has all the time in the world to just hit their head up against the wall over and over and over again. But Dark Souls 1 did difficulty really good because the world was well balanced. You could go around right away, pick up a pretty good weapon, and you could do what's called suicide run, where you run and you know you're not going to make it back, but you just run and grab a certain item, and you plan your build ahead of time. See, with that kind of an RPG, you can, even if it's a difficult game, you go into it with a plan and a strategy, and then by the time the end of the game rolls around, you're just godlike and you're going around destroying everything. So it's kind of like skateboarding games where the Souls games are their own thing, and they are difficult. Like Bloodborne Chalice dungeons, there's something called Defiled dungeons to get the best gems, where you reduce your health to half HP and you fight these huge bosses, and if you take 2 hits and make 1 mistake, you're through. And then there's a chance that the gem you get either won't drop, be the wrong one, or it'll have a curse on it, meaning it's useless, or it'll be, you have to go for the right curse. You want stamina down, or which means requires more stamina, which isn't a big deal. What's the other one? Stamina or attack versus kin is fine because there's not that many kin enemies. But then there's other curses like HP gradually depletes, which gets rid of your health every second, or attack down, which just takes away your damage. So what I'm trying to say is you have to be like a sadist to keep playing this gem farming. And I did it, and I know other people that have done it, but I'm in a different point in my life right now. I only have so much time. When you get to a certain age, I'm in my late 20s. I know that's young, but you don't want to fool around with these games that you feel like you're running around in circles and you never come out with anything that you didn't start out with. That's why I kind of put Bloodborne on pause, because I did all there is to do. There's nothing more for me to do. There's nothing more for me to do in Dark Souls. I finally did the Artorias of the Abyss DLC in Dark Souls about several months ago, because I had only played the vanilla game. You guys know I like vanilla games. And I had only played that vanilla version, and then I got the remastered, Dark Souls Remastered, which had the DLC, and it's kind of obscure how you get to the DLC. You do it by meeting an invisible character who's actually stuck inside a random enemy, and anyway, you go to the DLC, you tackle a few bosses in various areas, explore like an alternate reality of one of the areas in the game that was in the original game. And that's it. It's kind of like a Zelda thing where you time travel. So I've done it all. That's why I say the Skate Revival is right on time. But yeah, games are not what they used to be. It's not a bad time for gaming, but it's oversimplified, and you're not getting these thoughtful, well thought out. You're getting games like The Evil Within, where it's the gunplay and everything is really fun and responsive and everything, but the game itself is just a disjointed mess. I don't know. What else did I play as a kid? Maybe I can give you one more. What did I play as a kid? That was hard. I played a lot of driving games when I was a kid. Mainly because I think it was like I didn't have access to all the hardcore. I remember there was one game when I was a kid called State of Emergency, and I didn't own that. A friend owned it. I'm not saying it was hard, but it was very, very unusual. Like it was I might have to look that up. State of Emergency. Then there was what was another one? L.A. Crime of New York or something. I can't think of it. Yeah, that was a different era. And neither of those did I own, but those were like, compared with Vice City, those were like some of the most violent, where you would just be on a rampage type of thing. So there are games that prove to be a good challenge, like in the middle era. Like BioShock was a good shooter, but it had these things like the Vita chambers that would automatically revive you every time you died, and you would just chip away the enemies. So it's these little annoyances, I guess, that they're afraid to make you mad. They're afraid to get the player upset or feel like they're not good enough. I don't know. Maybe I'll turn this into a part 1. But thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for hitting the like button too. We'll talk more about this soon.